It's Liz Yuille from Old Stables Crafts. I'm an independent Stampin' Up demonstrator based in the UK. Thank you for joining me today for another of the Spot Challenge projects. Today we have got a sketch, and I will have a picture of that over on my website, and the link to that is below. Do remember that if you would like any products from Stampin' Up, you can shop with me, and that link is also below. Now I am, disclosure here, I'm using items from my pre-order. So these are items from the new annual catalogue that goes live on the 3rd of June, and it's gorgeous. If you are an existing customer of mine, then your catalogue will be in the mail any day now. It's in the mail, but it will be with you any day now, fingers crossed. If you would like these products sooner than the 3rd of June, do remember you can always join my team and get them that way. So this is the card. As I say, I'm using products almost exclusively, but not quite, from the new annual catalogue. This is a suite, or rather a bundle, called Celebrate Sunflowers, which, bearing in mind my Stampin' Up team are called the Sparkling Sunflowers, is kind of, you know, can't believe how lucky I am. So I've taken the sketch quite loosely. Basically it was a square card was the main thing. So this is a 6x6 card, so I've used 12x12 cardstock for the early espresso base. You could shrink it down and get it out of 8.5x11 or International A4, but you would need to shrink it all down a bit. But let me show you how, well, I'm going to make it slightly differently this time. This was using watercolour paper, and I thought I would try using shimmery white instead. So I've cut a piece of shimmer white cardstock. I'm going to be using my Stamparatus because, particularly when I'm heat embossing, I do like the opportunity of going in for a second go, because sometimes, particularly on the watercolour paper, so I've just noticed I think my magnets have cracked. They did snap together recently, so I may be getting some more of those very soon. We digress. So yes, on the watercolour paper it can be a bit difficult to get a really crisp image with the heat embossing first time round, because you need to heat it quite a lot, and it soaks into the paper. The powder actually soaks into the paper. Sometimes you need to do a second stamp. I just wanted to make sure that I was roughly in the right area, which I am. Now I have still got and will still be using my embossing buddy, but it is retiring from our catalogue and there is nothing coming in to replace it. So for me, it's a vital piece of equipment for heat embossing. I've got my stamps already mounted up on my Stamparatus, and I'm just inking them up with Versamark. And I do quite like doing this kind of squish movement for my Versamark. I find it gets a better result. And then press hard, or firmly I suppose is the word I'm really looking for, rather than hard. And then hopefully I have got that reasonably well stamped. Gold embossing powder. So I'm just going to, I'm going to have to do it that way. I'm just going to get my piece of card and start dabbling. Oh, I think this is going to be more successful than the watercolour paper, but we'll give it a go and see what happens. It won't be quite the same effect from a watercolour point of view, is my slight wonder. Not concerned, because I'm not concerned. I'm just, ooh, that's an awful lot of powder that I want to get rid of before I bring this out. Now you can do this over a piece of just scrap paper and then just fold it in half, but because I've got these tubs I do try to just do it over the tubs. Yeah, that looks kind of okay for the bits that matter anyway. Yep. Okay, so take that out, pop that down there, and grab the trusty cheese board. Where would I be without my trusty cheese board? And for anyone who wonders, it's a bamboo cheese board, and I got it off Amazon years ago, so I honestly couldn't tell you much more about it than that. Just spotted a piece of fluff, which you kind of don't want. That's better. That's better. Right. Okay. Now, I'm not a wafter. I may hold it in one position, let the powder melt, and then move round. That's my sunflower done. Now my leaves. And there we go. Sunflower and leaves. Okay. Now I think I might die cut them first and then watercolour them. So I'm going to just trim these bits away so that I use the magnetic base plate, and it's much easier to cut your dies or your pieces that you want to die cut away, so that you don't have problems with your magnets. So this is my very, very tatty, and I really should get one of my, I've got some replacements and I need to get them out. But yes, my base plate is a little used. Right, now this is quite tricky to line up, I found. What I've looked for is this curve here, because that seems to be the easiest to line up, except there we are, not lining it up. So I've got a definite curve there and there. And it's not, is it? Oh, yep, there we are. No, yes, no, no. Yes, yes! Hurrah. Now I have on my stamp made a mark so that I can get it back into the red rubber, because I always hang on to the red rubber in my stamp case, so that I know, particularly in the days when, you know, those days that we rarely remember these days, when we could actually do face-to-face classes, it means I know if there's a stamp missing. So I leave the red rubber surround in my case. Right, let's see if I can die cut that without too much movement. Bear with me one moment. Fingers crossed it's going through. Okay. Perfect. Perfect, perfect. I love that the two little leaves stamp at the same time and die cut at the same time. Right, let's pop those there so that I don't lose them. And start on our watercolour. I'm just going to cover up my gold embossing powder for the moment. I will be needing it again. I apologise for the state of my grid paper, but knowing that I was going to be watercolouring, I thought I would wait until afterwards to change. Right, so I have already mixed, and I may need to do a little bit more, some re-inker with some of our Champagne Mist shimmer paint. My team is called the Sparkling Sunflowers, so I thought it'd be quite nice to have them actually sparkling. Just a rag. So I've got Mango Melody here, Cajun Craze, Soft Suede and Old Olive. And I'm going to start with the Mango Melody. Now I am going to try to keep inside the lines as much as possible. I am going to end up going outside the lines, but you know. Right, this is going to be a much brighter finish than this. If you see, this is a much softer finish, so this is going to be brighter, which is fine. It's just going to be different. So I'm just going to, basically what I'm doing at the moment is just getting a background finish and also making sure that I go into the points with some liquid. The key to watercolour is water. You want your paint to be liquid so that you can take advantage of the fact that it is watercolour and it runs, because that's kind of the whole point. On our ordinary cardstock, the water will just soak in. It's like using blotting paper. So it just soaks in and it just stops, which isn't really the effect that we're looking for. But the shimmer does take water reasonably well. Oopsie, I've gone outside the line absolutely there. Gone off the die cut. Right, that is basically all of the points done. So I'm now just going to take my water brush, my aqua painter, and spread that all around a bit. Make sure that we've got water running. And then I'm going to come in with my Cajun Craze. Now it worked, whoops, I'm going over the bit that I didn't want, Cajun Craze, or indeed Mango Melody, but that's fine. So this is going to be a lot brighter than the original, but that's fine. Now I have to say I've taken my inspiration for this from some sunflowers that I bought from, of all places, IKEA. Needless to say, they are imitation sunflowers, but I take them to conventions, on tour, not on tour, on tour. Had we had a live on tour, I would have taken my sunflowers so that my girls knew where we were sitting and that sort of thing. But they've been to on stage, so yeah. They go to team events. If we join up with the larger team, they go to team events, and they're gorgeous. And they were IKEA price, so not expensive, and they're just a bit of fun. And they've got this very definite red centre, which I really like. I am such a fan of sunflowers. My logo is the sunflower, and it kind of happened by mistake because we moved to this house just 5 years ago, and it looks like an old stable block. In fact, it was an old stable block, which is why it's called the Old Stables and why I have the Old Stables Crafts. And it's got black wood cladding on the outside, so it looks agricultural. And we have lavender outside, which is lovely. And because of the black, I thought it would be quite fun to grow sunflowers and have the contrast of the yellow against the black. And that was the first photo that I took that I used as something for my business, and it had sunflowers. So that's how I have sunflowers. Right, so let's clean the Cajun Craze off and come back in with some more Mango Melody. And I'm just going to scribble, if you can scribble with a brush, just to get the blend going. Because I don't like any harsh lines when I'm watercolouring, so moving the water and the ink around is great. And I literally used probably half a drop, if you can have half a drop, of re-inker with a brush full of the shimmer paint and some water just out of the brush. So there we go, that's a lot softer. And I'll probably come in and do some more on that in a moment, but now let's do the centre. Now let me show you my sunflower. So this is the sunflower. So we've got a green middle and then a kind of brown outside, and you can see where I got the red from. So I'm going to go in with Old Olive in the middle, and this is the Old Olive. So this I'm just going to scribble over the middle. There's not a huge space or area there, but it's enough to take some colour. So that's that. I've got a tiny piece of kitchen roll just to absorb the stuff that's sitting on the surface of the powder. Where are we? 16 minutes, okay. And then soft suede, which has dried up a bit, but it's fine. And we'll go around to the outside with that. Might need a bit more re-inker. Yeah, a little bit more re-inker. So no, that's Old Olive. So this is the soft suede. So I'm going to put just touch. Tiny bit of re-inker will make an enormous difference. It's very, very concentrated, so you can see already that it's gone a lot darker. And that was, you know, literally just a touch of re-inker. So that's that, and then I'll do the leaves, and then I'll come back in and do more with the flower. So this I'm just doing in Old Olive. And you just get that really nice liquid blended, and because we're using shimmer paper and champagne mist, we're going to get very shimmery flowers, which is going to be lovely. I've been waiting for this stamp set to arrive with my pre-order. We do have some delays in Europe at the moment. There was an issue at the warehouse in Germany. There was a small fire that knocked out a couple of bits of the machinery, and it's taking them some time to get back on track. So deliveries are taking a while, and I need to send out my team recognition, and I wanted this stamp set to arrive before I did that. So I will be making a lot of sparkling sunflower recognition, and I'm going to be sending something to everyone in the team. So the Stamparatus is going to be my friend. So that's that. Now let's just clean my brush off and come back in with the Mango Melody and just add a wee bit more to the ends of our petals, and then we can move on to building the card up. This won't take long to dry, but one of the reasons I decided to do this first was so that it could be drier by the time I am ready to use it. If push comes to shove, I can always use my heat tool. So yes, we do have these delays. It's taking about 10 days for things to get shipped, and then of course they have to be delivered. So another reason that if you want to get some stuff from the new catalogue sooner than later, joining would be a great idea. We can't order everything from the catalogue at the moment, but we can order quite a lot. So if you would like to get things soon, do just drop me an email and we can go through how that would work. It means you get £130 of product that you choose for just £99, and you don't have to pay for postage because that's included in the £99. So it's a bargain, absolute bargain. And then you can get everything else with a minimum discount of 20%, and that'll take you through until September, October. Right, this is Sahara Sand, and I've used the new Old World Paper 3D embossing folder. It's gorgeous. I'm loving it. I've got a sponge dauber and fluff on my ink pad. That's better. Let's get that off. It'll come off. And I'm just going to age it. But the first thing I'm going to do, and this is one of the reasons, let's get that out of the way, one of the reasons I wanted to keep this dirty piece of paper rather than get a new piece, because I'm going to age my paper. In the days when I did dress design, I went to the London College of Fashion to do a fashion design course after I'd worked for a few years. And then I started doing costumes for theatre. And one of the things I used to love doing was breaking down costumes. I'd sit with a cheese grater and all sorts of things, aging costumes and using dye to get, you know, stains in places where you were going to get stains and those sorts of things. Loved it. Absolutely loved it. So this for me is just, oh, heaven. I may even have to put in a second pre-order. Right. Dirt. Dust. Okay, so I'm going to do the centre first, because once we get onto the edge, my sponge dauber is going to get quite dusty. Now I'm going to start in the corner, because that's where the sunflower will go, so it gives me the chance to see how much ink I've got on my dauber. And I'm literally just running it backwards and forwards. Add a bit more, go back to that space that we know is going to get covered up. Back in. Just takes that extra little bit of ink off. Now there is a smaller sunflower, and if you are one of my existing customers, as I say, I'm sending your catalogues, by the time you see this, will be in the post. You will have the small sunflower as one of the things I am showing you in the in the catalogue bundles I'm sending out. Right, and now we're going to go round the side, and this is where I'm going to go onto the side of the pad to pick up extra ink, because I don't want the fluff that is almost bound to come off this paper going onto my nice ink pad. Now, if you're really worried, you can put the ink onto a block and pick it up from there. If you want your ink to move better, as in a smoother way, not the look I'm looking for here, then you can add a little bit of glycerin onto your block and mix that with your ink, and it gives you a much smoother finish. But that is what I'm looking for the moment. So we'll get rid of that. So this is our base. So I'm going to pop that onto my card blank, which I'd lost for a moment. So I've got a 6x6 card blank. Just get that fluffy bit off. So I'm going to add quite a lot of adhesive to this, because it is very textured. So in order to make sure that it actually sticks down, I need to make sure that I've got adhesive on the raised sections. So this is a lot more ink, glue than I would use if I was just sticking down a piece of Sahara Sand paper. Card, technically, I suppose. And press from the back, not least of all, I don't really want crumb cake ink all over my hands. Okay, so the only other thing that I need to do before we can put it all together is straighten that out for a start. That's better. Is to do some heat embossing for my sentiment, and the sentiment is "Let's Celebrate You." Again, I'm thinking about my lovely team of sunflowers. They are all so lovely. They're all very different, and they're all really lovely people. I am so fortunate to have them on my team. We are a remote team, as in we aren't all local, but we do team calls either by Facebook, or I'm introducing Zoom calls this week, so that those who aren't on Facebook can have a go. And I am waiting for some new technology, which means we can do crafting with me actually being visible as well, if it works. Fingers crossed. Right, we've got a little bit there that I don't like, but we are going to cut it all away, so it doesn't really matter. So this is early espresso paper card, and I'm just going to heat up my heat gun again. Last, where are we, 25 minutes, good grief, we might run out of time, I might be having to splice. I think I've got it all. Hopefully I've got it all. Right, okay, so nothing quite like fussy cutting under pressure. I have a sneaking suspicion I'm going to end up splicing this video. Those of you who don't know, my camera gets bored after half an hour and just shuts off. So if there is suddenly a oops, that'll be why. But I will splice the video together. So it's fine. Now this is one of those you want to move the paper, not the scissors. Much easier to fussy cut if you move the paper than try and get your scissors into small spaces. You know, I'm almost tempted to stop the video and start it again, so at least it starts in a sensible place, but let's see how we go. Now I'm going to come back and just do that. So I've come back from where I stopped before I cut the extra piece off. Again, that gets a much better finish, otherwise you could end up with a funny sort of jagged edge for no good reason. Oh, my stomach is telling me it's lunchtime. I have to concentrate when I'm doing this. Where are we? 27 minutes. Eek! So I will finish this fussy cutting, and then I'm going to stop the video and start it again, so that we end up with a sensible break. Okay, so I'm going to stop and I'm back. Just means I have to splice. I'm not very good at splicing videos, that's the problem. Now I got a rather jagged finish there because I was looking at the camera and not at what I was doing. Okay, right. We are nearly there. So we have our basic pieces. Now I will line this with a piece of Very Vanilla. I'm going Very Vanilla because it just feels right. Oh, and I'm just going to add a bit of crumb cake around the outside of the die cut pieces, because although they're on shimmer white, which isn't white, in comparison to everything else, I felt that they look very white. Certainly the watercolour paper did, and that's even less of a pure white than the shimmery white cardstock, so that just ages it down a bit. Let's do the same on our leaves. And this one. Do remember that there will be more inspiration on the Spot website, and you can find that by going to my website, and as I say, there's a link to that below, and then if you click on the sketch, you will go to the Spot website. I have already die cut some little extra bits which come in the pack of dies, and I'm just going to put a little bit of sponging on there. Just need a tiny bit more ink. I've cut some Sahara sand in a single layer and some crumb cake in a double layer, by which I mean I stuck 2 pieces of Sahara Sand, crumb cake together, let it dry, I used the liquid adhesive, and then ran it through my die cutter. It just gives them a bit more body and a bit more dimension. And you can certainly get 2 layers of cardstock through your dies without too much fuss. So yeah, so these you'll find are a lot more sturdy, which is they've got these very fine stems, is no bad thing. I don't want the stark, that against that looks a bit stark, particularly the Sahara Sand where that kind of blends in a bit better. And I don't want this to be a hard line in the sketch. It is a hard line, but I don't want 2 hard lines on my card, and the sentiment is going to give me a hard line. So, right, okay, so I need dimensionals, which I have got here. I will be using some black ones as well. First thing I'm going to do is stick a couple into them, or 3, into the middle of my flower. So this is going to come here. This is going to stick on top. So I'm going to add a small amount of adhesive to that and stick that on there, and that will then give me somewhere to work from. I will need that again, so I won't cover it up. I'm going to pop some black dimensionals on this because they will hide better than the white ones. Can I get one right at the end there? Just. So that will hold that up. And then the leaves, I'm going to have the big one coming up here, which I will stick on with glue, I think, to begin with. So I'll have that one just there. And then the small ones are going to be underneath. So I'll have one just there and one coming out from here. And yes, I know I'm building this from behind. Scary, huh? But it works perfectly fine. Right, so now we've got those on, we can worry about our, well, I'll stick some dimensions there just so that that's all held together and given some support. And I can pop one there because won't need that. Right, so these pieces are going to come out from here. So again, don't mind if they're not perpendicular. So I just need to know roughly where they're going so I can then build from there. And I am going to mix up my colours. I mean, they're not obvious colours, but my neutrals, so Sahara Sand and Crumb Cake. And I need these to come in a bit because I want it to come this way, so it is more of a right angle, is the word I'm looking for. Might come down a bit actually on that one. So we'll come down to there, and then this one I'm going to just rip and just put this one in. I think I might put that one in there. Let's see, what have we got? Yeah, I'll pop that one in there so that it goes underneath a bit. So, oops, get on along. That's what we want. And then I can hold some of these together also with a dimensional. Pop the lid on that, another dimensional there, and one there. I am using quite a lot of dimensionals because of the texture and because having watercoloured, the shimmer paper is a little buckled. So to help keep it flat, I'm using more dimensionals than I would normally. And then we will be done. Hurrah, I hear you say. So, as I say, do remember that if you want to get these items early, they are on the pre-order, and you can order them in your starter kit now and get ahead of the queue. So, let's have a look. This is on the watercolour paper, this is on the shimmery white. They are not that different. Yeah, I think this one actually probably is a brighter finish. But there we go. So I hope you enjoyed that. Do go and have a look at the sketch. Please enter the challenge. We love seeing people taking our inspiration and growing with it. So please do have a look at that. Link to my website is below. I will have a link to my online store below. If you are thinking about joining my team, I would love to have a conversation with you. You can either call me, my contact details are on my website, as I say, that's below. Drop me an email, also on my website, and I'd be thrilled to chat that through with you. Thank you very much indeed for joining me, and I look forward to seeing you again very soon.